Hey everyone, I'm Panera, and I'm going to do a solo episode here for you on the Zergling, just to sort of make up for that horrible episode where I was talking about anthropomorphic aliens with Brutaxlos, but unfortunately his mic didn't really work well with the software that I was using to record, so it created some issues. So I'm doing this just as a little bit of extra bonus content here to make everybody nice and happy. So we're going to talk about the Zergling's anatomy, and we're kind of going to get back away from that ecology thing that we've kind of been going on a tangent for, and looking at the more hardcore morphology and anatomy here. So basically, the Zergling overall looks rather vertebrate with some little insecty bits thrown in. Basically, we're going to start with the head because that's the logical thing, and move down the body. So looking at the eyes, first and foremost, they don't really have overlapping fields of view. You get this kind of blind spot in here, which is bad. You'd want, as something that's actively running around, hunting, climbing, exploring, loving, laughing, things like that a normal Zergling would do, you really end up with a lacking. You need the binocular vision in order to see things more three-dimensionally. So when you're jumping at a marine, for example, to determine the distance, it actually makes a lot of sense to have binocular vision. However, an argument can be made because think about things like a zebra or a wildebeest or any sort of prey item. They need to have a wider field of view rather than a narrower one, and no overlapping really necessary. And that allows them to see more of the Serengeti, the field, the forest, whatever. And it allows for them to spot predators. So things like marines coming at you, that would be helpful. So there's positives and negatives. I think for something that's jumping around and using some nasty raptorial claws, I think it really does need to have the binocular vision, which is kind of unfortunate, but oh well. It's a slight design error. The teeth I kind of really like. They're kind of built almost like a shark, where they have just a whole bunch of like razor sharp teeth, and they're not great for chewing. They're not great for anything but tearing into something really strongly. And I imagine, since they've got such a high metabolism, and if they're quite often away from creep, that when they do tear off like a tear an arm or something, they're going to just be swallowing it whole, which is great. I mean, just swallow it and get out of there. And I imagine their really rapid metabolism would manage to digest things rather quickly. So moving on a little bit down the head here, they do have all these little spikes, but they're not really of any consequence. They're not too bad. They don't do much. They don't hinder it that much, so we'll just leave them as is. One thing I want to talk about for sure, though, is right coming out of the neck here is this kind of structure here. It's not, you can see from here, it's not the hydralis derp jaw. It's not the secondary jaw we see a lot. It's this weird like claw spike thing coming out of the side of the head, actually, because the neck looks like it's down here, and so it looks like it's coming out the back part of the skull. Now, I don't really like this because if you're a Zergling, mobility and streamlining is really important to you because you're basically the fastest unit in the game, unless I'm mistaken there, especially on creep, you certainly are. Imagine something like a sapling gets in your way, and oops, surprise, you get your weird horn thing caught. So that's a huge disadvantage. You can get caught on things, especially on like a jungle planet like Ire. That could be an issue. So I don't really like it, and I don't really see the purpose of it. It looks rather rigid to me, especially in the unit portrait. So I'm not really sure what it does. So I'd like to see that removed. Just get rid of that altogether. It's not necessary, just might make them look tougher, but ultimately it doesn't function all that well. So looking at the pectoral girdle is kind of interesting here. They've got this really thick neck going down, which I imagine is pretty important. It's not really great for jaw pressure. In fact, I'd like to see something called a sagittal crest, which is a crest that runs like this. And then in the back of the skull of vertebrates, there's a crest that runs like this called the occipital crest. And so what ends up happening is you get these muscles called the masseters, which are here. And you can feel them if you just clench your jaw and touch the back of the jaw itself. You'll actually be able to feel the masseter, right? So the masseter right there is a very important muscle, but one of the most important muscles is something called the temporalis, which actually runs kind of up like this. And what's important about these crests is the larger the crests, so they're nice and big, like on say a lion, the temporalis gets more space to connect, right? And I'm sorry I'm making this Zergling look like garbage. I'm not very artsy or anything. So anyway, it ends up giving it a lot more jaw pressure, which is something you'd expect from something like a Zergling. This is rather, I mean, I guess this is kind of a large occipital crest, perhaps running back here, but I'd like to see a large sagittal crest, and what we see is actually the head is rather flat. So that's unfortunate. So this really thick neck musculature doesn't necessarily do a whole lot. But the pectoral girdle itself has this weird structure here, and I'm not sure what this is doing. I mean, what is that? What is it supposed to be? I don't know what it does. It just seems like it's extra dead weight, which I'd like to see removed to streamline the animal. One thing I do really like about the Zergling design is these lovely, lovely raptorial claws. And what you can expect is a tendon to be running up down the length of the entire, well, I guess this is the forearm. I don't know. I don't think they have any muscular or any much structure inside. I don't know what their bones might look like if they have them. But anyway, the point of this tendon-like thing is similar to the velociraptors from Jurassic Park. What you do is you pull the tendon using a muscle back here, and then these claws spring forward into a more offensive position to basically impale or hold any sort of prey item, really. And I like this because this actually protects the claws and allows them to maintain sharp. They won't get broken off or anything while the creature's running around. So that's awesome. That is such a good design. Good job, Blizzard. Bonus points for you. Now, basically, the biggest issue with the pectoral girdle is this. I get that it's I'd like to see this maybe more recurved, so it's kind of like this. So it's actually more like a sickle. I don't understand necessarily how this works. It just seems like it would be interfering with the upper arm musculature in here. I suppose it could be using some sort of a tendon that attaches further back on the body or something, and then the whole arm as one unit swings forward to cause an issue, right? But then that's the exact same motion. Imagine this arm here is up like this, right? In striking position. It's accomplishing the exact same motion as this lower part of the forelimb. So I don't really understand why that's there. I think it's dead weight, and especially because it doesn't really retract all that well. Again, if you're running through a jungle or something, that would get caught on everything and would break off, and it would just be miserable. So you don't need that. You shouldn't. I don't think it should be there because it's just doubling up on this. And I guess there is some inherent redundancy that would help. But the more bonus parts you have, the more likely things are to go wrong. So simplicity is often better, especially with this sort of cheap throwaway worker like the Zergling. And again, here we see this sort of wing coming off the upper thigh. I don't know. I think this is one solid piece of carapace, and I don't know that this might provide a little bit of protection for the wing here, but again, I'm not too sure. But speaking of wing, where is the wing attaching? If we trace it down here, you know what? I'm going to use a different color. Blue, the king of colors here. So if we trace this down like this, right? The wing seems to me that the front wing is attaching into this sort of mess. That there's so much that is attaching to this one site. I mean, if I were a Marine, I would shoot like right there. I'd be going for that because you're disabling this arm, and you're messing up this wing. I mean, it doesn't take much because this is such a fragile attachment here compared with the rest of some of the other things. I think that this would be the sweet spot where you want to smoke the Zergling unless you want to go for the head. I don't know how thick this carapace is or not, but whatever. Anyway, so on the back leg as well, you kind of get this weird double up effect where I think the wing is attaching somewhere in here. And then the leg attachment itself, the assuming that this is one big carapace, you'd end up with sort of the head of the femur or femur-like bone here, and then running down there. So it's I don't know. This part kind of seems unnecessary. I'll put a little X there. I know this is getting messy. I know. Yeah, I'm trying out some new things. Let me know how it goes. Anyway, the leg itself looks fine. They're very they're what's called digitigrades, so they're actually sitting on their toes. So this would be the heel. This would be the like this weird elbow talon like Leela has. equivalent of an elbow talon that Leela from Futurama has apparently. And so this would actually be the whole foot right here. And so they're just standing on the unguals, which is the claw bones here, which is totally fine. You see that that actually provides a great amount of agility for a lot of animals living today. So that's totally cool. What I don't like is this big claw back here. I don't know, like even if it was super recurved like this, I don't see them being able to kick forward enough, especially with the front limb in the way. I don't like it. I think that could be removed. It would just get in the way. It would cause issues. It's just another thing that it's superfluous at best. And why I don't think the wings are superfluous is because they're for the metallic boost, right? So a lot of times you see even things like dragonflies using their wings as solar panels. So this is actually something that can regulate heat. You can dissipate a lot of heat out of wings, and you can also flush blood in there in the sunlight to gain heat. Now, I don't know specifically how they're veinated. They don't seem to be veinated at all, really. But I would imagine they would have to be similar to something like dragonfly, where you get like all those beautiful veins coming down. So we'll just say that that's just an artistic thing that they left out, but it should probably be there, because they're definitely not getting any lift with these, especially when you consider the size of a Zergling. Yeah, it's just not going to happen. Now onto the tail. This is the last part. I don't like the tail. Usually when you have something that is built like a raptor, running around like a raptor, all the theropods, all the carnivorous dinosaurs, that is to say, have tails that sort of stick out nice and rigid. Of course, they don't get fatter at the end. I'm just a terrible, horrible drawer using a terrible mouse. So something more like that, right? Where it's really stiff and stiffened at the back, oftentimes with overlapping ossified or bone, turned it to bone, if you want to call it that, tendons and ligaments as well. And this flexible tail doesn't really do a whole lot for it. This works. This one, the one that would be stiff and sticking out the back, works to counterbalance the front end, which is a little bit heavy, and this would allow them to sort of maintain their balance over this sort of axis. So you end up with the creature being able to jump and be more mobile and effective at its task, rather than having this limp tail that really provides nothing. You're actually repurposing the tail and making it more useful. So anyway, this has been the Zergling. Leave your comments below about this horrific new setup I've got going. I'm trying something new. Hopefully this will allow you to see more what I'm talking about. I know at the end, if you're just looking at this like as a thumbnail, looks like total garbage and I look like a 4-year-old trying to color it. But anyway, let me know how it goes, and I'll try to answer all of your questions and things like that as well. So thanks for watching.